Hello, everyone. Greetings of the day to our Indian as well as international delegates and participate, considering we are all in different time zones, or some of us are in different time zones. I'm excited to welcome you all for a series of discussion today on leveraging apprenticeship program for building a diverse and inclusive workforce. The webinar is being hosted by Team Lead's Degree Apprenticeship, which is the leading and the largest service provider for degree apprenticeship in India, in collaboration with Global Apprenticeship Network established by ILO, IOE, and OECD to advocate apprenticeship and all forms of work-based learning for skill development of youth and channelizing them towards gainful employment. In the current volatile labor market, the dynamics of world of work is rapidly evolving, and that too at an unprecedented pace. Talent is becoming dearer. Jobs are influenced by skills and not qualification anymore. Talent is becoming gender agnostic. Organizations are resorting to innovation when it comes to talent supply chain models and are focusing more inwards for talent development through continuous and lifelong learning practices. Uh, you know, uh, with these evolving dynamics, in today's discussions, we will explore strategic approaches to address the urgency of diversity and inclusion through apprenticeship programs, including case studies on attracting diversity, underscore the core of mentorship, peer support, and unbiased curriculum design in promoting equitable skill development, discuss the benefits of apprenticeship programs for women, addressing the gender wage gap, and showcasing apprenticeship as a tool for women advancement and their share increase in their share in the workforce participation. Also, we learn and share. We'll get to learn from the GAN Global members. Who can highlight their experiences across multiple countries and sectors. I would like to introduce our panelists and a keynote speaker, for the session. We have Mr. Ved Mani Tiwari, who's the CEO of NSDC and the MD of NSDC International. He's going to be the keynote speaker for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Tiwari, for joining us. I welcome you on behalf of my organization and GAN. We'll have Aarti Bhardwaj, who is D&I Employee Wellbeing Lead of Nestle. We've got Mr. Venkatesh Kumar, Head of Human Resources of Valor India. We've got Gunjan Patel, who's Director and Head Philanthropy, Microsoft India. James Raffel, who's the Head for Retailer Association, Skill Council of India. And he's also Joint Apprenticeship Advisor, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Ms. Jyoti Menon, who's Head of HR for Service Delivery, APAC and HR Head Lead, UBS. Sanjay Shivnani will be joining us, who is the President, Hindalco Industries Limited, Aditya Birla Group. Stephen Bunuto, Principal Director, CFO and Enterprise Value, Diversity and Inclusion Business Team, Accenture. And our CEO, Mr. Ramesh Reddy. Thank you all of us for joining us. I really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule to share your experiences and your perspective on the subject. Now I'd like to invite and introduce my co-host, Rowan, who's the Executive Director for GAN Global, to brief you about the work that GAN is doing and all the initiatives that they undertake for advocating apprenticeship, and also elaborate on our partnership, the joint partnership that we have. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Sumit. And really, it is a great honor and a pleasure to be with all of you today, Ramesh, and all of the panelists that were just introduced. It's really it is a great opportunity to be partnering with Team Lease Degree Apprenticeships on this event. And as some of you may know, this is the third webinar this year that we have been looking at various aspects of the apprenticeship topic. It's a topic that's particularly important, and even more important now that we have, following the International Labour Organization approval of the recommendation on quality apprenticeships, we now have a clear way forward on quality apprenticeships. So it's something that the GAN, which has been in play since 2014, with really as a voice of the private sector in collaboration with the IOE, the ILO, OECD, and OECD for Business, has been really focused on, and it is an opportune moment right now to be talking about this topic. I'm really looking forward to moderating a panel later in the session, and we're going to be addressing unconscious bias in apprenticeship selection. And we've got our panelists from the Buehler Group and also Accenture. So really looking forward to seeing you in a little while. And I turn things over to you, Sumit, to introduce our keynote.
Thank you, Catherine. It's lovely to have you and the partnership with GAN Global. I would now like to invite Mr. Ved Tiwari, who's going to be for his keynote address, to his perspective on apprenticeship and how apprenticeship could enhance participation in India labor market. Also, some of the initiatives that the government is taking to scale up apprenticeship in India. Just to give you a background of introduction to Mr. Ved Tiwari, he's the Chief Executive Officer for NSDC and the Managing Director of NSDC International. With 3 decades of experience in both the Indian government and corporate sectors, Mr. Tiwari has played a pivotal role in sectors such as infrastructure, energy, urban development, and transportation. An advocate for leveraging technology to democratize skill development, employment, and entrepreneurship. He has significantly contributed to NSDC's strategy, collaborating with sector skill councils, training providers, and industry partners. And as the managing director of NSDC International, he is establishing a robust partner network to enhance the youth skills and employability globally. Under his leadership, NSDC International has already partnered with leading economies like Australia, Germany, Japan, UAE, and Switzerland across various sectors, including renewable energy and electric vehicles. Sir, thank you so much once again. Over to you, sir. We're eagerly waiting to hear your views.
Thank you so much, Sumit, and good afternoon, good morning. As I prepared, as Sumit was saying, that we have the audience here might be joining from different time zones. And first of all, I would like to congratulate you, Sumit, and the entire team, this team, to bring this kind of discussion in front of all of us. As you would know that immediately after our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, took over as Prime Minister of India, he brought lots of changes in the skill ecosystem. So much so that perhaps we are among the very few countries where there is a independent ministry for skill development and entrepreneurship. So a ministry was set up. Then he also lots of changes were brought in the apprenticeship rules, and which made apprenticeship actually accessible to corporates. Before that, there was hardly very few organizations who were interested in this. So this reform of act, which was promulgated in 1961, and how those changes were brought in. And as we were reading in the newspaper yesterday, that in last 5 years, apprenticeship has gone up by 20 times in India. We are also seeing the clear inclination towards expanding the scope of apprenticeship, while it was typically until now have been used in the entry-level jobs and people who are just wanting to transition to workplace. But we all know the power of apprenticeship, which is all about somebody getting the first experience of a workplace. And workplace, believe me, have transformed in significant ways in over last 2-3 years. And that would mean that the apprenticeship has to become an integral part of the education itself. As you were telling, that today the hirings are no more relying upon qualifications and skill-based education. Skill-based hiring is extremely important construct, and there's no other option but the apprenticeship to become a clear opportunity for pursuing that agenda. So while over last 4-5 years we have been doing this, the important thing that is emerging is that how do we bring a DI construct to apprenticeship. What we have noticed is that I have personally observed that lots of work, everybody, whether it's academia or industry or government, everybody is talking about that women need to participate big time into our workforce. And we can see these results all around us. Workplaces are decidedly changing, and perhaps no workplace or no job role at the workplace is where we are not thinking about women. So I see a very there may be some issues of whether they are getting equal opportunity for growth in their careers, etc. But I'm sure that things are changing big time in India. I have seen many countries, and in India, let's be proud of that. Over the last 4 5 years, everybody, private sector, government, uh, managers, leaders, everybody has talked about it, and women have really demonstrated as they are entering, more and more women are entering workforce. They are demonstrating that the value that they are adding. Now, I have no doubt about it that the in gender inclusion agenda is high on the mind of everyone. Yeah, be at the board level or at the shop floor level, it's there high on the agenda of it. Opportunities, I think the success that we have got with the gender inclusion should actually include uh, should be expanded to include the diversity and inclusion in all its form and shape. I will just like to inform you that we are running a first of its kind a developmental impact bond in skilling, which we call skill impact bond. And one of the perspective there is that the outcome is a retention in the job, 6 months retention in the job. That what does that actually mean? That if for 6 months the person who is joining the workforce or the employer who is employing a person, if they have if this works for them, there's every likelihood that the person will be successful, will have a successful transition to a workplace, and employers would have found out a good employee for them. So this is where I believe that the diversity in all forms, whether it comes in terms of special ability or socially disadvantaged groups or geographically those groups which have never participated in a certain uh, workforce, they also apprenticeship could be an window because it does not burden the employer with the kind of regulation and compliance which otherwise they would have to face too. And we need to start working in that direction, that apprenticeship could be an opportunity for us to expand the agenda for diversity and inclusion. Uh, all over the world, what we have found is that those who have tried to bring diversity into their workforce have only seen positive results. So it's only a question of, unless you have experienced it, you will not be able to vouch for it. I remember that when I was in Vedanta Group, Mr. Anil Agrawal, about 7 8 years ago, he started talking about that we need to come for women to come into the workforce. And at that time, many of us, the senior leaders in the company, would feel that okay, that's fine, but from where we get capable women leaders? And he started a process that, boss, if you are not able to select, I'll select. And many women got accelerated promotion, etc. And my personal experience says that they did a wonderful job when they were given the opportunity. They did a wonderful job in those situations. So this is where I think that we should not restrict it to gender inclusion alone, and that means only women inclusion. We have to broad base it, and apprenticeship or all variations of apprenticeship, whether in terms of returnship or internship, whatever we take, if we allow the employers and the uh, talent which they may not have experience in their usual construct to come together, I think the wonder will happen. And I'm quite hopeful. I have seen this. It has changed before my eyes. The gender inclusion agenda. I've seen it now. All of us vouch for it. It has changed in front of my eyes, and that is why I'm extremely confident that if we bring the DI in its true interpretation, uh, one is a the social and physical and other dimension. but even in the thoughts. And we have, if we want to make truly diverse workplaces, we also have to be respectful of the feelings, emotions, thoughts, etc. will make workplaces attractive and safe for everybody. So with this thought, I would expect, I wish you luck that this agenda continues forward, and everybody who is here on this webinar will be able to contribute to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views. Definitely, whatever you said made so much of sense that diversity need not be just restricted to gender. We need to look at more geographical, people from different capabilities, abilities, thought processes, and also we need to go beyond just looking at apprenticeship just at the front or let's say at the entry level. It has to go beyond that as well. Absolutely apt. Definitely is the need of the hour for for preparing for the future. For the skill, for the talent. And I would also like to compliment you and NSDC, sir, because under your initiative today, the way apprenticeship in India has scaled, it's tremendous how the volumes have doubled up. Also, when you talk about gender diversity, at least, we can talk about that here, is about 25% of apprentices today in India are women folk. So that's very heartening to see that, how they're going to get or enter into the formal workforce. And very recently, there was an article in the Financial Express in UK, where India apprenticeship system was considered as one of the best systems in the world, and that's all thanks to the regulatory changes and the guidelines which you have put across. So thank you so much. I know that you have to kind of leave. You have another engagement and agenda. I would like to thank, on behalf of Team Leads, maybe Ramesh, would you want to kind of thank him as well, since he's leaving right now?
Sure. Thank you, Shri Vedminai Tiwari ji, for elucidating the critical role that NSDC is playing. And I think you brought up a very important point. It's not just about gender inclusion. So while we will concentrate on that a little bit more initially, I think your thoughts are very valuable, and we look forward to seeing how we can also pursue that to ensure that there's diversity and inclusion from across all angles. And one last point I just wanted to tell, also adding to what Shri Vedmani Tiwari said, apprenticeship is actually it's like during the birth itself, or in the starting of the career, when you try to shape the organization, it's very easy to shape the organization at a later stage. So 20 years from now or 10 years from now, become norm. Diversity and inclusion can become a norm if we start with the apprenticeship. So that's the point which Shri Vedmani was also alluding to, saying that apprenticeship can also go a long way. So I think a lot of points, key takeaways for us. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for being here and doing the key address note. Look forward to meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Great. So over to you, Ramesh, for your views. I think your perspective to apprenticeship. What's your vision? How do you want to present that?
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Catherine, for the introductions. So I already thanked Shri Vedmani Tiwari for also bringing the Atmanirbhar Bharat to the forefront in black and white. So the mission of upscaling India is a shared mission which cannot be realized unless all the stakeholders, government, academia, industry, and the community works together. So India is at the cusp of making the dreams and aspirations of 1.4 billion Indians real. The next 25 years can be India's golden age, provided we do justice to the most important wealth that we have as a nation. That is our youth. Because if you look at the demographic dividend we're blessed with the lowest average age in the labor workforce across the world. Our economic prosperity is dependent on the opportunities our youth should rightly have access to. However, I think we really need to ask ourselves, are they skilled enough to participate in the global economy? Are they educated enough to make the best use of their skills? And most importantly, will the dividend be reaped by everybody, or is it going to be dispersed it. So that's something which we really need to think about. So the singular objective we want to achieve in this webinar is simply to show that one of the pathways to equitable growth for our youth lies with the adoption of apprenticeship. And the rewards of our investments in youth will be reaped by our businesses and our country. So much has been written already on the diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of Sumit alluded to it, Catherine alluded to it, Vedmani also alluded to it. But India's economy can grow by 9% to 10% if women, who constitute 48% of our population, were to participate in non-farm labor. India's women labor force participation rate today is at an all-time high of 37%, but still much below what is the global average of 53% almost. A report by McKinsey Global has estimated that India could add 770 billion US dollars to its GDP by 2025. It's just about 1.5 years away, just by offering equal opportunities to women in India. So that's the power of inclusion from a gender inclusion perspective. So while there are many nuances to women's participation in India, be it societal perceptions, gender biases in roles, and so on, we strongly believe from Team Leads that apprenticeship holds the key to empowering women by giving them means to education as well as financial independence, especially via higher degree embedded programs. So women constitute 20% of the total apprentices in India today. England has 53%. Germany has 40%. We've got about 34% in Australia and 33% in France. So, but still the gender imbalance is prevalent across. But as per an International Labour Organization study, men and women train in markedly different sectors, even in very advanced countries, just not in India, reflecting and emphasizing occupational segregation in the workforce. Women are significantly underrepresented in high quality sectors such as engineering. And the reasons for this imbalance are attributed to gender stereotyping, cultural grooming, lack of career to young women, and the safety also. I see are taking, and the fact is that women are active manufacturers and to be constituted to fight automobile companies are already reported that women come from their workforce 3 times growth, 3x expansion. Similarly, services sector is also witnessing a similar growth trajectory, with data scientists and computer engineering roles being fast filled up by women candidates. But these are only the green shoots. The biggest onus is now on us, especially Indian industries, to be the vanguard for driving a diversity agenda via inclusive apprenticeships. There are many initiatives that Indian industries can actively take to increase women participation in apprenticeship. These include flexible training schedules, increased seats for apprenticeships exclusively for females, more female trainers, enabling digital platforms for connecting skilled women and employers, and the community outreach. So the government can also give an active push by incentivizing employers who give more women apprentices and are aiding in the creation of necessary gender-sensitive infrastructures. But most of all, the game changer is expected to be higher degree embedded apprenticeships. Women from socioeconomic backward and rural backgrounds can raise their employability via such programs, while talent creation at an organization level gets a significant boost. Employers are beginning to realize that apprenticeships linked to a degree lead to more advanced skill sets, generate better returns on the investment, and help create a very cost-effective talent supply chain. So community investments via apprenticeships give significant heft to brand equity, thus driving quality to its workforce and ensuring loyalty and productivity. So if we want to hit 50% women labor force participation, and if Indian industries want to partake in that additional 700 USD billion that I spoke about, then gender equality in economic participation can provide that we need the leaders, women participation, we need more women to participate in apprenticeship. So that's the agenda for today. But the future of work is characterized by rapid technological change, automation, and the emergence of new job roles. There cannot be a better time than to implement these changes today, because today there's so much of change, and we can easily bring this change of having more women apprentices in the workforce. So I once again welcome and thank everybody who's there, the panelists, for contributing their intellectual might. Thanks for all your collective wisdom. I'm sure we're all going to learn a lot from all of your views, what you do in your different companies, in your industries. I'm sure it's going to inspire our audience. It's going to inspire the HR leader and most importantly, our youth. And look forward to having more women apprentices. So all the best to us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ramesh. That was really, really insightful. I think very aptly said that how women workforce is going to impact the GDP. And two ways to look at it is either you increase the number of apprentices, which all organizations have to, you increase the pie, the size of the pie that we have today, it automatically is. But I think the combination of both is something what we have to work on, and together definitely we want to work on that particular agenda. Thank you so much once again for sharing your views. We'll begin with our first panel discussion, which is basically on the on the diversity inclusion, especially on the gender side of it. India's apprenticeship pool, traditionally dominated by men, is now witnessing a remarkable transformation towards a greater diversity and inclusion. The demand for women apprentices has witnessed an impressive threefold increase. Are embracing gender-neutral hiring practices. The data for our apprenticeship outlook report, which we recently just launched, indicates that an encouraging 51% actively foster equal opportunities for both men and women. The positive trend also extends across sectors and regions, and the surge is driven by the factors such as the economic and business growth. We're looking at compensation parity and the effectiveness of higher degree or linkages of higher education in the form of degree apprenticeship as well. Also, the fact that organizations are now becoming more gender neutral, and they really do not look for whether it's, job roles are no longer categorized. It's absolutely neutral. They need skills and talent. What it indicates is that organizations are looking at apprenticeship as a powerful tool for breaking down barriers and creating a more diverse workforce. It provides women, especially those from rural communities and marginal backgrounds, with access to educational and economic opportunities, enabling them to acquire essential skills and qualification. These programs not only empower women, but also contribute to talent creation and skill development, fostering a pipeline of qualified individuals for organizations. The Indian government initiative like Skill India Mission and NAPS further strengthens women participation in apprenticeship. By embracing apprenticeship as a means to bridge the gender gap, India can unlock the immense potential of its female workforce. How organizations are to women empowerment. I'm joined on this panel by Jyoti Menon, who's the HR head, delivery APAC and HR head for UBS, James Raffel, executive head for Retail Association Skill Council of India, and Aarti Bhardwaj, who's DNI and Employee Wellbeing Lead Nestle. Introducing them, Jyoti. So with over 25 years of expertise in the field of HR, Jyoti Menon has navigated the human resources landscape, overseeing functions in diverse settings ranging from startups to multinational corporations. Apart from leading the human resources function in India and the global recruitment operations, Jyoti is deeply involved in the DE&I initiatives and leads the diversity, equity, and inclusion work streams at UBS India. She has been honored with multiple awards, including the 2022 APAC President's Award and the 2017 Asia HRD Award. Welcome, Jyoti, for the discussion. We've got Aarti with us. Aarti Bhardwaj, leading diversity, inclusion, and employee well-being at Nestle India. With over 15 years of experience in ed, Aarti, a human resources management expert holding a degree from ESC Claremont France, her diverse HR background spans talent management, business partnering, recruitment, and a strong focus on diversity and inclusion. Aarti has championed initiatives such as the inclusion of persons with disabilities and raising awareness for the LGBT plus community. Welcome, Aarti, for this discussion, and thank you for your time. We also joined with James Raffel. With over 29 years of professional experience across consumer durables, banking, IT, telecom, dairy, and retail, James has successfully managed both national and international profiles. His impressive background includes a decade in business management and 8 years in human resource management. Since his return to India in 2012, James has excelled as the executive head of RASKI. Furthermore, he has represented the Indian delegation in various nations and served as the Joint Central Apprenticeship Advisor for Retail Sector for Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India since 2018. Thank you, James, for taking your time and joining us. Let me just begin the discussion. Jyoti, I guess your camera still continues to malfunction, so it's okay. It'll be nice to hear you, but let's start with you.
Sure.
Could you just share some of this, the specific strategies or initiative that UBS has implemented in the other regions to ensure that apprenticeship programs actively engage and empower women?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sumit, and a pleasure being here with GAN. Thank you for this opportunity. So UBS being a 150-plus-year-old bank, in our experience, teams with diversity in gender, race, age, education, background, and gender identity better understand and relate to our equally diverse clients' needs. So likewise, diversity of thought, opinion, experience, all of this helps us make better decisions and be more innovative. And across the firm, we have a very clear mandate to sensitize our workforce, to hire, promote, as well as retain talent from different communities. Now, gender hires happen to be a primary focus of hiring at all levels for us. So while we've realized over the years, and what we've realized is that by ensuring there is a healthy representation of women, especially at the entry or starting level, we inherently will reach a target state of more women in the pipeline, growing and becoming a part of the C-suite later. So UBS talent pipeline is sourced from various audiences, providing the organization with that diverse workforce. And we have been rolling out apprenticeship programs in the UK, US, Australia, as well as Switzerland. And that's been an important step in creating junior talent pipeline for UBS. These programs attract high quality, very diverse school leaver candidates, and also provide apprentices with the skills and the experiences that are required to transition from school to the workplace whilst working towards an industry-recognized professional qualification in their own chosen business areas. So the programs offer a viable alternative to university for applicants looking to join the world of financial services and UBS following schools. One of the highly celebrated examples that I can give you about UBS is the UK and the Switzerland model. In the UK, UBS offers degree apprenticeships, and these are about 4 years duration, and advanced apprenticeships, 15 to 18 months. Now, the degree apprenticeships are available for BSc Applied Finance degree, BSc Digital Technology Solutions degrees, and the advanced ones are available for Human Resources, Business Administration, and Finance. So the whole program allows progression opportunities into further study with high-level qualifications, which is like additional 18 to 24 months. In Switzerland, the apprenticeship programs are a partnership between the government, the industry bodies, as well as the organizations. So that's like a self-regulated program by each organization, and it's more oriented towards the industry needs. So there's general training that's provided by the private or the public commercial schools. And for the industry skills, the banking industry, such as ourselves, we've established our own training centers. And these training centers are called CYPs, and they train, they coach, they support, and accompany participants on their way to professional success with its unique learning principles that are connected to the learning interventions. Now, UBS 3-year commercial apprenticeships, which is specialized in banking. It also offers a diverse training experience. We provide resources, operations, and also contact centers. The program structure includes 6 rotations of 6 months, across retail banking, commercial banking, wealth management, and it's like supervised on the job. So that's the kind of opportunity I did in the other geographies.
I think it's the initiative you're talking about is, how do you get the well-rounded talent at the end of the day, giving them the multiple exposures. And I think also what you highlighted on the degree apprenticeship, I think that's something which is no-brainer that, really works well. And I think something which India is also trying to get into it. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it in times to come. Thank you so much, sharing your views on that, Jyoti, about the initiative that your organization is taking up. I'll come to Aarti, to you now. I think, what roles does apprenticeship plays in improving gender diversity in Nestle? And do you believe that higher education is a crucial lever for women to opt for apprenticeship?
Hi, good afternoon and good morning, good evening to everyone here. Thank you very much for having me over. Happy to be here talking to all of you. And maybe before that, I just give maybe just 1 minute on what we do here in Nestle when it comes to gender or when it comes to diversity. Everything that we do in Nestle starts and stems from our values rooted in respect. So whether it is an apprentice or a trainee, or whether it is a senior person joining us, everything that we do stems from our values. And hence, for us, when it comes to inclusion of either gender diversity or persons with disabilities or anybody from any background, it's just the right thing to do, and that's how everything starts for us. And hence, inclusion plays a very, very important role. When it comes to apprentices specifically, we have found that over the last few years, they've managed to play an important role when it comes to increasing the gender diversity in the workforce. Whether it is at the level that we have done a splendid job. For instance, our factory in Gujarat stands at 50% plus when it comes to women workforce. And some factories are still, getting there. But we've seen that it's the role that apprentices have started playing when it comes to increasing the percentage in the factories. And depending on where they're located, in some factories, we've actually seen 30% more women as part of the apprenticeship program. And this is because of the location where they are, and we find that women are higher when it comes to, in the apprenticeship program, for instance, in areas like Gujarat, some places in the south. Wherever we've had, openings coming up, we've also had them join our permanent workforce as well. And it also depends on which of these factory locations do we have permissions to, operate in a night shift, for instance. I mean, these are realistic, on the ground challenges. But wherever we have government permissions, for instance, to function in the night shift, we find that the intake is much then higher, after the apprenticeship program. This is a landscape that is slowly changing, but we see very, very positive things happening.
Great. I think it's very heartening to see the way, Nestle has also taken up to apprenticeship, specifically for the women's empowerment, and how, you're, working across different geographies as well. You mentioned about the healthy participation of women even at the factory. So that's really heartening to see that. James, coming to you, we've seen that in UK and US, nearly 60 to 75% of the retail workers are women. As per the numbers which are available to us, it says that close to about 25% to 30% are there in India. I'm not sure what research talks about, because visually and optically, we see more women there, but these are the statistics which are coming out. So just want to know that how is Rashki looking to improve the women participation rate in India's retail sector, and any green shoots that are visible to you?
Greetings to everybody, and thank you so much. It's a wonderful question that you asked, a very nice narrative, and I'll start on a lighter note there. Okay, so during the conversation that I started from 3 p.m. onwards, Indian Standard Time, I've heard the percentages or countries that have evolved and have embraced apprenticeship, like United Kingdom, for example, or Australia, for example. Let's understand the colossalness of the nation that we're talking about, that is India. So if I have to look at, from a macro level, if tomorrow India import into India, the only impact would be after the decimal point, because we are talking about approximately 63 million in UK as a total population, and we're talking about 1.4 billion in India. Similarly, with Australia, it's approximately 26 million. Now, if I have to look at the retail industry per se in India itself, the retail industry, putting together traditional and the modernized retail segments, that itself is 60 million. Okay. So what happens is we're talking about a sector equivalent to a nation. So if you don't use percentages and if you use the absolute numbers, it will give you a completely different narrative. Having said that, yes, we have still a very long journey to go. Very long journey to go. The good part is the face that you're seeing right now actually is not the eldest person in the system, but the oldest person under the Skill India mission. So I've seen actually things evolve and taking shape, from how you would say a disbeliever to a complete believer. You've seen the transitioning happen. You've seen the evolution. You experienced, you lived it. If I will just cite a case over here, when we started off also, a state like, for example, Jammu and Kashmir, okay, their parent, the parent had a girl child and a boy child, okay, the parent would be open in the initial phase saying that, okay, the child is skilled, but the girl child need not get. Then it moved to a phase wherein, okay, the boy child can get skilled and work, but within the state. The girl child can get skilled and be within the comforts of home. It evolved further wherein, okay, the boy child can get skilled and can explore employment options beyond the geographical boundaries of the state. Okay. In fact, during that time, a lot of advocacy also was that, like, for example, the Ministry of Rural Development used to issue letters also to such candidates so that they did not get, hindrances while searching for rental accommodations, whether it's in Chandigarh, NCR region, or Delhi. The girl child at that point in time also could get skilled, and okay, you can work within the state. Today, things have changed. Today, in fact, if you actually go to see, you have professionals and you have mobility, because skills itself, if you actually go to see, has no geographical boundary. Even if I have to look at skilling or standards, today we talk about national occupational standards. Uh, I, I see a day which will come for sure, which will have global occupational standards. Okay, because functionally, even if I have to look at serving a customer, what can be the difference between interacting with a customer in Sydney or Geneva or Hanoi or Jeddah? It is only something to do with the cultural levels, nothing to do with functional levels, or nothing to do with process, because we have global retailers. Okay, so I mean, the way I meet and greet a lady customer maybe in Jeddah will be very different from the way I meet and greet a lady customer in Sydney, for that matter. Okay, so it's all to do about cultural part. The balance actually stays constant, and that is what is going to bring about skilledom. Coming to what could be done in this field, if you actually go to see, uh, the green shoots are very clear. These numbers are going to be on a trajectory, like how you mentioned also. If you go to see in the last few years, the just when apprenticeship was open to the services industry, it took a quantum jump in terms of the numbers, because if you go to see with more and more automation that is actually getting into business, the jobs globally, okay, in the manufacturing segment will shrink, but with the services segment will increase. Because the way I look at retail, I don't look at it as a typically how you would say a business to consumer. Actually, I look at it as a P2P model. It's person to person. So how much of our e-commerce can permeate a nation or a continent? At the end, the last mile definitely for fulfillment will be a physical interface, and that's going to bring that many more opportunities. Okay, the good part is the way the industry has started looking at it. I mean, HR fraternity has embraced it like crazy over here, because I mean, some of the HR people very clearly say, boss, what I can't evaluate in a 6-minute interview, I have 6 months to evaluate. So, for example, if I have to cite examples also, Tata Starbucks, okay, their way of hiring people into the system itself is through apprenticeship.
True. Absolutely.
And there is no formula that just because there is a curriculum of 6 months or 12 months that the apprentice needs to complete the contract, and that is the success actually of apprenticeship, wherein you get a fresher into the system, you curate him or her, and actually enable the success to regular employment much before the curriculum, which means you're actually triggering premature growth. You're triggering a lot of economic independence in the stages of his or her career.
That's right. So I think, James, you really got it right. I think, whether you talk about the volume side of it, you talk about the skills. I think this, obviously today's skills are also looking at more horizontal. The functional skills really doesn't really matter. But as long as, you have horizontal skills, irrespective how you can, kind of make them more transversal, whether geographically as well, right? So great insights. Thank you so much. James, you're talking about. And just to let you know that, when we talk about from a volume perspective, definitely India is a country for scale. But, we still have just 0.1% of our workforce that operates under apprenticeship. But if you look at any of the evolved and developed economies, that's still about 3 to 4%. Definitely there are green shoots, but I think we still have a long, long way to go. And retail, definitely, no brainers, has the maximum potential to look at. Thanks once again for your inputs. Coming back to you, Jyoti, we'd like to really hear some, you mentioned about, how different job roles are getting considered under UBS. And, you mentioned about degree apprenticeship as well. And also the various aspects of jobs where they're exposed to, which for the well-rounded, talent. But any, initiatives, any anecdotes that you would like to share with us? That's one. And second is that, how are you, and what's your plan for apprenticeship in India? Do you see that something it could be replicated in India as well, or are you already doing something which you may want to share with us, your experience there?
Sure, Sumit. Thank you. So actually in UBS, for some of the apprenticeship programs that I refer to, we heavily depend on women to drive the success. We've got women leading most of these programs. And the programs represent a pillar of growth, sustaining the required amount of retail client advisors, giving foundation, and also allowing us to develop towards a more complex roles like wealth management client advisors or corporate client advisors, more from a banking perspective. Now, these programs in reality actually combine the theory as well as the practice, giving that net benefit to participants and businesses. Many of our apprentices remain within the bank, and some assume key leadership as well as management roles. So we've been watching that trajectory. I'm very proud of the way it's continuing in terms of an education approach. It uses the benefits of the universal bank. It opens various developmental pathways, very structured, as well as, there's internal mobility that's also being taken up by these apprentices. It allows vertical, that is, increase client portfolio complexity, seniority, leadership, as well as from a lateral perspective, more around products and segment management, the change in region, languages, careers, etc. And it's supported by postgraduate programs, internal and external training offerings, certifications, etc. In 2022 alone, 54% of our participants in the school leaver apprenticeship program were women. And if you look at the graduate talent programs that we have, we saw a participation rate of about 47% women, and 69% of our women graduate trainees have progressed further from our internship programs. So these numbers kind of demonstrate our commitment and also the success that we've seen in actively engaging women at the entry-level programs, and also thereby creating that kind of a pipeline for growth within UBS. And coming to plans that you asked about UBS India in specific. Now, these initiatives that we ran globally and the success that we've seen in other regions actually offer us that blueprint that we can implement in India. We already have certain programs that are kind of targeting junior pipeline. And with the merger that we've had with Credit Suisse, and that's very recent, the combined firm actually offers a wide range of business functions, which is across multiple locations. And that's being looked into in terms of piloting more of these programs in India. So similar to the success of what we've seen globally, India has a graduate training program. We have campus hiring programs, and these have been successful from the perspective of junior talent pipeline. So that's where our move into the apprenticeship program. So the spotlight has shifted. Of course, speakers before me have made inferences to this, that the Indian government has launched initiatives like Skill India mission and the National Apprenticeship Program, the NAPS, to boost women's participation in the programs. So like this, we want to bridge the gender gap, and India can definitely unlock that potential of its women workforce. From a socio-economic angle, I think apprenticeship-linked degree programs have that potential to radically kind of after the relationship between the higher education providers, the vocational education students and employers. So that's where our focus is in terms of stipend earned through apprenticeship, giving that financially weaker candidates that opportunity to access education that might have previously been unavailable to them. And we've already started working across both organizations in terms of building that apprenticeship program. So if you look at the potential scope, and I think before me, James alluded to the country and the scope, but there are 5 million employees in central public sector undertakings, right? So the central government and the banking sector. So if all of us, if all of these establishments kind of engaged apprentices, even up to the mandatory minimum limit, say, of 2.5% of the total workforce, there could be a further 125,000 apprentices that can be trained. And that's where we are also focusing as an organization. Thanks, Sumit.
Great, Jyoti. Thank you so much for your inputs and insights. I think definitely India has the potential to scale. We're saying that it's just if you talk about the banking and the public sectors, but even if you start looking at higher education element, because apprenticeship is always taken from an employer view, but if you take it from an education view, the potential is close to about, could be as high as about 20 billion that we're talking about in India. But coming to you, James, you also mentioned about degree. You've also launched degree apprenticeship very recently, right, for the 3-year program. How do you think that, or what's your belief that degree apprenticeship holds the key for empowering women and thereafter catalyzing organizational workforce development?
Thanks, Sumit. If you actually go to see, we launched the degree apprenticeship on the 15th of July of 2019. And we did a pilot. We did a pilot with 2 of the largest retailers in the country. One is an MNC, the 9th most globally valuable brand, which is McDonald's. And the other was Reliance Retail, which is the Indian retail multinational. And we thought if these 2 agree to it, definitely all the others will follow suit. We did 3 colleges, institutions in that, again with varied degree of difficulty. And I'm so happy it's a coincidence that this topic is about gender, inclusion and diversity. One of the universities was in Jaipur, and it is an all-women's university, JOT. Okay, so that was one of it. Then we selected one wherein there is not much of retail industry. It's up in the northern part, Himachal Pradesh, the Chitkara University, wherein typically for a person to do even internship, the person has to go to another city or state. And then we chose government college in Maharashtra itself, but not in Mumbai where we're based. Okay, because we wanted to actually implement this and see, test the efficacy of what we built up for scale in a remote region. And the good part is in 2022, COVID unprecedentedly hit all of us. So we thought, let's not scale up, but let's ensure that this batch does not become a guinea pig, but it becomes a showcase item. So what we did is we didn't scale up. What we did is we actually nurtured them and invested more time with them. It was uncharted territory in our nation because it had never been done before, and we were wondering why. Because if you go to see the academic system and the industry system are 2 sides of the same coin. One is curating talent for the industry, the other is actually waiting for relevantly curated talent. So the good part is in 2022, when most of the people trying to implement the National Education Policy 2020, we announced the results which were 100% because that was the culmination of their degree program. And thereon, not looking back, we realized we don't have the bandwidth, to approach 47,000 plus institutions in the higher education space. So we said, let's work with the state leaderships, and currently we're working already and implementing it across 3 large states in India in a very structured manner. And the beauty is the the product is developed in such a manner that it addresses the lowest common denominator. When I say that, it is affordable, adaptable, and accessible to all.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the good part is, if you go to see, I mean, I'll give you a few statements, the feedback that came in and drives the passion to do more and more in this segment is when a child who has gone through this and has been economically enabled through stipend-based apprenticeship while he or she is studying, okay, which otherwise they would take fees from their parents for their education, they would take pocket money for commuting. They're actually coming and saying that, hey, I sponsored my parents' first air flight tickets. When they come and say that, in 4 months' time, I managed to save enough of money from my stipend to buy the first, not CRT, not plasma, the television set was not existing in the house, but directly an LED panel display in the house. So these are the actual, what I would say, outcomes that we realize, and it's damn good. Why it will do wonders for women inclusion as we go ahead. See, today, if you actually go to see, there's an emotional shock for many people, and many of us on this panel itself have lived the same life. We always were one track in the senses academics, completed till the time or position that you are satisfied, and then with your degree or your post degree or a doctorate, get yourself evaluated in the market for suitability. No longer, it does not have to be that way. Get your feet wet while you're still studying. Okay.
Yeah.
Familiarize yourself with the ethos of the system, with professional ethics and functional capabilities, and transition the way you would pass on a baton in a relay from the education system to the professional system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, James, you really got the right chord. How do you get the education and the capability building together, how it's transforming their lives and livelihood as well, how it's driving the consumption, which is good not just for an individual, but also for the country because it boosts the economy as well. So thanks so much, James, for sharing your views. Aarti, just coming to you for the last question. You did mention, elaborate various statistics, your healthy participation of apprenticeship, women apprentices across different job roles and location as well. Just one last thing to hear from you is that any strategic initiatives from Nestle to encourage more women participation and excel in apprenticeship opportunities? Maybe if you could have a quick word from you on that.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, there's something wrong with my video, so apologies for that. I think what we find that is working for us very well is we've developed a very comprehensive training program for them when they join us at the workplace. And that we find is really helping us because for many of them, this is the first time that they're seeing inside, let's say, of a factory. Safety is the primary thing that we take care of when anybody joins us. And that plays a very important role. And another thing that we do is conduct sensitization sessions for all our supervisors. This is the first time that many of them will be working with the Gen Z workforce, for instance, women in the workforce. So that helps us in terms of ensuring that the apprentices or people who join us have a inclusive, experience while training with us. The performance of the apprentices are tracked very, very closely by the heads of the department or the functional heads. They track their progress throughout their apprenticeship. So it becomes then a platform in the future for us then to identify the potential resources when we have positions coming up. We're also experimenting in the future with a particular college in one part of the country, where we plan to then sponsor education or the ITI education of a certain number of women candidates, where we train them, during their course as per the Nestle standards, and then train them, 1 month on the job, and also prepare them for future hiring. And with other companies, local companies have, hiring initiative where other local companies participate as well. So this is something that we plan to experiment with in the future, in the next month or so.
Great. As I said, organizations are innovating their people supply chain to look for talent. And I think you just mentioned about inclusive safety, looking at different colleges, how do you evaluate people, makes absolutely more sense. Thank you so much, all three of you, for sharing your views. I know we've exceeded a little time beyond our timeline. So Anyways, thank you so much for sharing your inputs. Over to you, Catherine, for the next session.
Thanks very much, and what a great session. Really enjoyed the opportunity to hear from everybody. So it's my pleasure to have the chance to speak to you and to moderate a panel on addressing unconscious bias in apprenticeship selection. It's a really important topic because it's getting things right from the beginning. And before we kick things off, I think it's important just to, understand and unpack a bit, what does unconscious bias, what is it, and how does it manifest itself in the corporate world? It really is, it just refers to things like attitudes and stereotypes that affect our understanding and our actions and decisions unconsciously. Normally, people just aren't generally aware that they're acting, that they have unconscious bias. They have any kind of bias. So it's really often unintentional. It's automatic. It can be based on things, characteristics like race or gender or ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or lots of other factors. In the corporate world, when it comes to hiring, you can see it really manifests itself in a number of different ways. Like, hey, you went to the same school as I did, isn't that great? Or when it comes to promotion, it can relate to things like team dynamics and communication, decision making, networking, and even mentorship. So here today, we've got a great panel of two individuals who are going to talk to us about this topic. We have Venkat Kumar, who's the head of human resources for Buehler, based in India. Venkat brings over 30 years of expertise in HR, and he currently heads HR for South Asia for the Buehler Group. And we also have here with us today, we have Stefan Bonuto, who's Principal Director, CFO, Enterprise Value and Diversity and Inclusion Business Team at Accenture. And Stefan co-leads the D&I business unit of Accenture in Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. So he's also the finance director in both the manufacturing and commercial sectors, and is a regional divisional CFO for international automotive and engineering company. So both bring a wealth of experience, and very happy to have you both here today. Stefan, maybe I can start with you, and you can maybe share some practical strategies or tools that Accenture has implemented to identify or minimize unconscious bias in the whole selection process of apprentices.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine, and I'm very happy to share experience of Accenture and how we live D&I. Within Accenture, D&I is really part of what we call our 360-degree value proposition to our clients. It's also part of our leadership principles, and it's also part of our behavior. So it's really deeply anchored in our DNA. I'll start with a couple of and we will come back, I'm sure, to what we do exactly on to articulate those points, later on in the discussion. But to answer your question directly, what we are doing, to address unconscious bias, I'd like to take two examples of what we're doing precisely in India, and also what we are doing in the US, which are, talking two significant regions of the world. So in India, we have two programs, one which is called ARAMP, and the other one which is called the Inclusive Internship. So if I start with the ARAMP program, that one is really targeted to women and to people with disability. Personally, I must say I have a kind of an interrogation mark. Why should we actually even? And now I'm really speaking, the voice of Stefan, right? Not the voice of Accenture, just for a little parenthesis. I mean, considering just women as being part of the diversity, for me, has always been, a bit strange. It's my very personal opinion here. Just considering that at least 50% of the world, is female. So in that sense, what is the diversity impact there? Well, it's probably driven by what we encounter in the economy and in where the allocation of maybe of wealth and influence, is spread. but clearly that this is where we can encounter a bias here, because although women make more than 50% of the society, actually their influence in career, in economics and in politics is underrepresented, I would say. Now I close my personal parenthesis and come back to what we do at Accenture, especially on the ARAMP program. So it's targeted to women having especially I would say a challenge, in their socio-economical background. It's very important in order to be inclusive, to understand, to acknowledge the impact of the personal situation, the legacy of families, and the access to education, and that can be a challenge in certain part of the world, in certain groups. So in order to address that, we've got this program which is really targeted to women with some lower background of economic, and also to people with disability, where clearly statistics speak their language, that the level of integration of people with disability in the enterprise world has also still some barrier and some challenge to overcome. So as we speak, we've now done at least 1,300 people, since we started the program a couple of years ago, who have benefited from this program in India, which I think is a massive number of people, and it's, as I said, it correlates to our view of why diversity and inclusion is part of our core values. Now, another program that we are running is the so-called inclusive internship. That's also targeted to people with disabilities. That's also targeted to transgenders. Also there, and that's also something that we can observe from statistics. The level of representation of transgenders in the unemployment is abnormally high. It is unfortunately very, very high. So we're talking about a group who is really facing challenges in order to be included in the career world, in having access to promotions and personal development. And there we open the way in corporate functions or in Accenture operations. So the benefits are really on the hand. The benefits for the candidates themselves, it's really getting relevant to the industry, getting relevant to the work market, beefing up their profile, their CV, their experience, their curriculum, so being really boosting their attractiveness. And the value for Accenture is also, I would say, evident. We get access to a talent pool which we wouldn't have maybe elsewise, and we also create a culture of inclusion. Because this inclusion, the culture of inclusion is really part of our behavior rules and leadership principles. So that's for India. And for North America, we have now launched, in our apprentices recruitment program, something which we call Remove the Barrier. We remove the barrier in the sense of the preconditions in order to access these programs in terms of the level of degree. So there used to be a kind of a 4-year degree necessary in order to access the program, which we have removed. So in other words, we have really broadened the requirements, or softened the requirements, or broadened the accessibility. And with that, we pursue the goal to open the program to a more diverse group of candidates. And what we do in order to remove the bias during the recruitment program is, first of all, to send the recruiters, to an inclusive learning. Also, non-conscious bias training is a mandatory preconditions for recruiters to be a part of the assessor groups, on this program. And we have what we call a diversity ambassador or an equality champion or body during the interview to make sure that interviews are conducted in line with the guidelines. And we review and assess the results as a group to also avoid the kind of bias that you addressed, affinity bias, or leniency bias, recency bias, all the kind of biases which we can encounter during recruitment process.
That's great. Sounds extremely robust, and for sure, I think the measures put in place will help to improve the diversity and inclusion within the whole recruitment process. Let me turn to you, Venkat, at Buhler, and maybe you can tell us um, how fostering an inclusive work environment can really contribute to the success of apprenticeship programs in manufacturing, and what steps Buhler has taken to create such an environment.
Thank you, Catherine, and greetings to all. I mean, Buhler is a manufacturing company. It is like a brick and mortar company. We heard it from the food company, Nestle, also from Accenture. But here, for us, always we believe that fostering inclusive workplace creates a positive and supportive atmosphere. So we always, our apprentices thrive and encourage a diversity of thoughts and contributes to overall success of the program. We proudly say that diverse groups performs better. So unlike other companies, I mean, in Buhler being a manufacturing company, I mean, we need to have multiple ways of fostering this inclusiveness. For us, we have a clear values defined by the company, and we also have a clear leadership commitment. And the leadership commitment is very clear that they understand and demonstrate how inclusivity and fostering inclusiveness is paramount important. And we always believe in role modeling and also leading by example. So that's very important for us. We also have a robust training and awareness program built in as a part of our curriculum induction program. And also we do a lot of refreshers, how diversity, inclusion should be part of everybody's DNA and part of the Buhler culture. And also we also practice diverse hiring culture. I mean, we hire people from Jammu Kashmir to Kanyakumari and East Coast to West Coast. For us, there are no boundaries. For us, we also believe that fostering diverse people and bringing all the diverse teams together would really has given fantastic results for us in our apprentices programs as well as in our hiring processes. We also have an important program called a Thrive program, which is very dedicatedly for women. When a woman apprentice comes into the organization, she will also be allocated with a mentor, another woman, wherein during the apprentice program, they both gel well. The woman would mentor another apprentice student. Then once the apprentice program is completed, the woman would also get a mentor of another man. So it is a well-defined oil process, and this has become part and parcel of our culture and value system, that open communication, feedback channels, various committees, town hall meetings, whatever we conduct, we always talk about diversity. We always foster inclusive work environment, and which has given us fantastic results for us. And we are very proud to say that we are running this apprentice program for the last 12 years. And initially, it was not very easy for us to attract the women. And not only women, even the diversity. For us, as I said, diversity means it is not only women. We also bring people from across languages, ethnicities, from different cantons. So it was not easy as a manufacturing company for us. For the last 5-6 years, our continuous fostering environment and also continuous knowledge sharing, as well as bringing up the training programs and the culture orientation, has changed a lot in our organization. Today, people have seen the success of how women can bring in difference in the organization. I'm very proud to say that the women whom we have selected, and welder, I mean, which is unthinkable for a manufacturing company that you have a woman welder. So we could able to convince, go to the family, talk to the parents, convince and brought a woman welder all the way from the rural part of Karnataka to the Bangalore. I mean, then we made her, and she won the Skill Congress competition in 2016, which is conducted at which is conducted at Switzerland in Bern. So that is a kind of emphasis and the focus what we give it when we attract people, and more preferably, we do not go into the A cities. We go into B cities and C cities, and we really source the candidate because we have our network across India. We go to the really rural people. We pick them up from the colleges. We handpick them. We check their financial stability. We speak to their parents. We convince them and bring them to Buhler Bangalore. So, and we also put them into fast-paced training program and also fast-paced career path into the organization. This is in brief. I mean, Catherine.
You can feel the passion coming through the airwaves here. No, it's great to see what we've accomplished, and it really, picking up on what Stefan was talking about, it really is all about being part of the DNA of the company and the culture and the leadership principles, as Stefan said, and a very robust approach, even involving the parents and from the get-go. So really very interesting to see. I'm just conscious of time now, so maybe just a quick one from you, Stefan. Maybe one example of a challenge or around unconscious bias in the technology apprenticeships. Maybe you could just comment on that and just how Accenture has addressed that.
Okay. Yeah, the challenge that we have is, especially in technology, is that the bias starts in many cases with ourselves in terms of the barriers. An observation is that many people set themselves a personal barrier for their personal development. Some people call it, the imposter syndrome. So, in other words, there are people who are more subject to setting themselves a higher hurdle to, for instance, it starts with application. It's been also researched that women have set themselves a higher hurdle for application to jobs for their promotion. So the hurdle starts with themselves, and it's even more predominant in technology, which is requiring very specific technical and functional and personal skills. So that even the technology sector itself has a very, very high set of skills. So in other words, the pressure from the sector and the pressure which some people impose to themselves increase the hurdle. And what we do with that is we clearly go against it. In our development programs, when I go back to the ARAMP program in India, we reverse the ratio basically. If we think that the technological sector is I would say, in terms of gender network, relatively underrepresented for women. Technology is in the last third of diversity compared to other sectors like communication, media, tourism, hotel, etc. So in our recruitment, we have reversed the ratio, and 2/3 of the people who we have onboarded in ARAM are women. Also in the people which we have overtaken, the conversion ratio, we have reversed also the female. So we deliberately go towards an increase in a proportion of the representation of underrepresented groups. The targets being the 50-50 by 2025 of women. That is declined and double-clicked throughout the whole organization. Just to give an example on that one.
No, that's great, Stefan. Thanks so much. And maybe I'll give the last word over to Venkat to just comment on, whether you've encountered any kind of resistance or skepticism about the need to address unconscious bias. I mean, do you get resistance from folks around this? And maybe just briefly, just comment, just in the interest of time.
Yes, I mean, definitely, yes, being a manufacturing company, I mean, when I first recruited a woman apprentice, I mean, people were highly skeptical because they say, no, women cannot do this job. Women are made only for these jobs. And there were a lot of fixed mindsets. I mean, it is not easy for me. And again, people were, since we have a long history of manufacturing, people were adhered to the old school of thought, and a lot of stereotyping was going on. I mean, they also used to say that a perceived family and cultural issue. If I take a woman apprentice, what happens after 2 years? What after 3 years? Will she continue her employment? There were a lot of unconscious bias which was there. I mean, it took a lot of time for us. It was not easy for us. We need to continuously bring in awareness, education. Then, I mean, we are able to then definitely, I mean, overcome these barriers.
No, thank you so much. And that's a great intervention by both of you. I think we'll close here, but Stefan, Venkat, thank you. I mean, I've heard a lot of things around mentoring, recruiter training, role modeling, part of the DNA. The imposter syndrome kind of runs through a lot of this as well. And really, thank you so much for your intervention. Really appreciated hearing from both of you. Great.
My pleasure. And feel free to reach out for questions.
Great. Terrific. And we turn over to Sumit.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. That was a wonderful discussion. I would say a lot of inputs came in, Catherine, and thanks you, Mr. Venkatesh and Stefan, for sharing. I think very aptly said, there has to be a cultural change from the organization, and also you need to have a societal or a family, buy-in for the implementation of it. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Coming to the last panel discussion, which is on the shaping the future of inclusive apprenticeship. today, our studies indicate that the Indian industry is committed to enhance diversity hiring, aiming for at least 30-35% in the next 1-2 years of time frame. This absolutely not only underscores the industry's growing recognition of the untapped potential and unique perspective that women bring to the table, but also highlights their strengths in areas such as hard work, discipline, and critical thinking. These strengths foster diversity in male-dominated sectors and play a pivotal role in uplifting women in rural communities. In our last session, we look forward to how collectively we can shape the future of inclusive apprenticeship, and I'm delighted to have two panelists with us, Mr. Sanjay Shivnani, who's the President, Hindalco Industries Limited, Aditya Birla Group, and Gunjan Patel, who is Director and Head of Philanthropy, Microsoft India. A little bit more elaborating their experience. Sanjay currently leads the technical capability development function within the corporate HR at Hindalco Industries Limited, a member of the Aditya Birla Group, with over 30 years of industry experience, a significant portion of which was dedicated in the education sector. He has a deep commitment to skill development and vocational education, particularly for India's youth, with a specific focus on creating opportunities for academically disadvantaged individuals. Sanjay has actively contributed to various states and government of India's skill development initiatives and presently serve as the co-chair of FICCI's National Committee on Skills and Education. Thank you, Sanjay, for taking time and joining us. We also have Gunjan Patel with us,